Hey everyone, this is Jan, and you are watching episode 10. It is, yes, episode 10 of my devlog, how I am making a little 2D platformer in the Unreal Engine. The inspiration is up on screen, and my problem today is right here. The name of the game, the inspiration, the problem. This is a problem I've been running into a lot this past year. It's I am running out of hard drive space. And so some of the easy, obvious solutions are you buy an external hard drive, right? That, unfortunately, doesn't always do anything. So the crazy thing is that you get an external hard drive, you move everything over, you put backups on there. I've got my Unreal Engine 5.4 on the external, works fine, not with the 2D game as I want. Like there's issues. I don't need the latest version, so that's all good. But then I run into things like both Xcode and Unreal take up an incredible amount of space. I mean, we're talking like 50 gigabytes each. And then when you look up the apps, of course, you know, it's like 12 gigs for Xcode, and it's like 4 gigs for Unreal Engine. But there's all the stuff in the background, that all the different versions, and like, there's just stuff that just piles on and on and on that is very hard to find. And I found it for Xcode, and now I can't find it again. And somehow, like, I know I wrote it down, but I can't find it. This is a different problem. Very frustrating though. And then the frustrating thing I've run into with Unreal Engine is that I want to start to make the level look a little bit prettier. And so I've been watching some tutorials about how to make my own materials, how to use materials I already have in my library. But the second I download them, and this is in particular with some of the mega scans I just wanted to have fun playing around with, I am downloading gigabytes at a time, and for some reason I cannot move them to the external, which means that my project, unless I figure out where everything is kept, the future of this project is keep it as simple as possible, because you have about 17 gigs to work with, and that's it, because that's what's left on my Mac Mini. So this is a reminder for my future self to never ever again look at the low end specs of a device and think, oh yeah, I can make that work. From now on, if I ever replace this computer, and the previous laptop, you know, lasted me like 10 years, so but I'm gonna have to make sure I get enough SSD from the start, because it's such a pain doing this song and dance every month, like just finding where everything is, deleting as much as possible on both my iPhone and my iPad and my Mac Mini. It's painful. If you just want to, you know, like be creative and like try stuff out, you know, even like on the Xbox, you know, I have my Xbox Series S, love playing on it, got it an SSD, and I just started downloading the Xbox One versions of games just so I could play them from the external hard drive, because some of the modern games, some of the latest games, before you know it, you're over 120 gigs for one single game. You know, like the memory management is just painful. Okay, that's my little rant for where I'm at. But space aside, let's fire up the Unreal Engine. I want to show you something. The other day I was going through my library, and I was just checking out what I have in my library. Every month every first Tuesday of the month, Epic puts out all this free stuff, and so I've been downloading all the free stuff, and a lot of it I don't really know how to use it. I never touch it. Now I've realized that it's actually not always possible to mess around with it because I have so little space left. But I do have some things that I found very interesting for the project Emit. One of them is this one right here. But this is a material library all set up, ready to go, which looks amazing. However, it's way too overpowered and complicated for what I'm doing, right? Or is it? Oh, it actually has normal map generation. Tri-planet UV projection. That's just the thing I was just looking into. Anyway, so I got myself a ready to go, out of the box material pack. Of course, I immediately ran into the same problem I run into with all these, which is that they stretch. There's a way of doing global projection, which makes it very user-friendly for when you're messing around with levels and building stuff. And so this one is a little bit more hands-on, right? So if we go back to the library, just fire up the game. This is the backup. Okay. I have to keep track of the paths now. Sorry, I opened the correct one. Okay. All right, it actually remembers. So here's one of the. Here are the settings, not 260 like the other pack. This is about 2 pages worth. It is a bit more overseeable. And then if I go into, there we go, right? This is my own that I've been messing with. So it's tiling. This is something the creator set up. So you get to play around with it. And it's this one right here, right? Okay, so here we go. Let's make this like that. This again. See, works. But look here. Well, kind of works. Probably fix that, right? You can rotate it. This is all good. But now it squishes, it squashes, it stretches, right? This is the problem. And so there is a fix. Of course there is. But what it forces me to do is think a lot more. I've spent like 2 days just like, okay, what am I going to do with this? So I've got I made a copy of the master plugin. So as you can see here, the creator has put all this code in place to make everything work as is. This is the master main copy too. And so you can, like, you've got your masks, you've got all the settings for here, like a base color input, right? Wait. You've got all these settings and you can just go to town and make your own materials. And so what I could do is, of course, I can change things up with some of the tutorials from the other day, so that as I'm stretching these blocks that I'm building, there's like a global value for the tiling in the real world of the game, and it stays the same. So the box will get bigger, but the tiles on stretch, they just add more tiles in any direction. I think that would make things easier for when I let's put this out of the way. For when I simply want to build a level, right? Let's say if I drop it in again, it's going to appear. So let me just for fun, just so this one stretches quite right. Okay. So the next step is, like, I can work with this, right? Like, I can go into the settings for this one, and I can change up the tiling so that it's perfect. But then I change up the tiling, of course, for the material for the whole level. So the next thing I could do, of course, is I make more than one material instance, which is based off the class. So I could end up with a lot of instances. So if I'm right, they don't take up a lot of space, because it's just a bit of, it's just a bit of code. It's all the same. So I could do that. But the real problem I'm having is that I am forced to think about how I'm going to move forward in the next phase of building my level. So materials, these are the materials I created, which is fine just for building the level out. These settings for this one. Let's zoom in a bit. If I drop them on everything, as you can see, it's the same texture that squishes more and more on different sized shapes. So I have to think about how I'm going to how am I going to actually build the actual level a lot more, right? Let's just drop this one here for a second. Because here, because of course you want some fine control on how things are going to look, and now I'm just kind of messing around. Okay, so how does it look? Like just being a little creative. Oh, slow down. Right? Just want to mess around, see how things look, and you can decide, like, oh, that's fine. It's all good. Who cares? Like when I mess around like this with all these materials, I really need to start sitting down and think about what the actual look of the level is going to be. Because now I know the problems I'm going to run into with the materials. So either I spend more time working out how these materials actually, how the workflow of the materials actually work. That means adding more functionality. Or I'm going to have to spend more time remodeling and texturing this level instead of just these basic blocks. so that the material works better. So one way to do that would be, if you take these, right, if we just look at the level like this, so this is a gameplay element, this is a gameplay element. So I break them up into parts that I can just copy and paste in the level, just as I did in order to build all this. But I make them ready-made pieces. And for those ready-made pieces, I make sure that the material is just tiled perfectly. And if there's a couple more like this, where it's, like it doesn't quite line up, I can play around with that. I can make an extra instance, move things around. That'll work. But I guess for this level, I'm just not as lucky. So in this level, I made some basic materials, and I just worked with the shapes, put them together, and I just got this clean look, except for the globes in the background. And it kind of works, right? I don't feel like it needs texture. I feel like this white and blue gold material works just fine. So I kind of lucked out with this level. That's what I'm saying. And now for the next level, because I have more of an idea of what I'm going for, these concrete alleys with lots of bricks and mortar. It's going to require just a little bit more thought. And so I've been thinking like, okay, the other option, which is I make my own textures on my iPad using Procreate. But then I need to relearn how to use Procreate because it's been a long time, so I can make my own painted textures. And one of the advantages, of course, would be like instead of using these 2K textures that I then squish up to like tiny little blocks to jump on, I can use textures I can create textures that are a bit more appropriate for this kind of game, and to keep it lightweight in the long run, so it can actually run on anything, right? So it doesn't slow down so much, perhaps. But I think I'm going to proceed with Procreate first, which would be a little bit of a detour because I simply need to be able to make concept art, even if I'm not going to paint my own textures. I need to be able to make concept art where I can just, even if it's just like photo bashing, like stuff that already exists from Mega Man or whatever, to have a better idea of what I'm going for and the sizes, and then see if those sizes can be dropped in the game, so see how they line up. You're just going to have a painting program, and I don't have that anymore because I gave up on Photoshop. So that's next. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Jan. And as you can see, this is not the usual we're working on today because I don't have all that much to show you because I totally slowed myself down learning how to use Procreate. And it's actually been quite interesting, I have to say. I'm actually quite happy that I'm putting myself through the paces of learning a software properly from the beginning, but it is a bit tedious and slow. And let's fire this one up. And so I don't have as much art to show you, and I'm a bit disappointed because I figured art would be my strongest suit learning how to use Unreal in the past year. But that whole saying of like, it's like riding a bike, not quite. It is like riding a bike. Of course I can still do art. Of course I can still draw. But there's a certain level of skill and just, you know, like when you're drawing every single day, it's kind of gone. But there's a whole bunch of stuff from Procreate that I remembered, so that helped. And there's the best thing about learning from the beginning is that the course I'm actually doing on Procreate Solid Foundations by Simon Foster. Thumbs up. There's a lot of character. He's quite a character. It's quite funny. And he gives a lot of art, practical art tips, and even color theory and all that stuff just in between all the Procreate stuff. And it's a welcome reminder. So I'm actually really enjoying the course. But I'm just not going as fast through it as I thought I would. So I think it's been like a week and a half. I did, however, expand a lot. Like I just started looking around and just, you know, just in my spare time, like from the Procreate, I was jumping like, oh, I wonder if I could do this. I wonder if I could do that. Oh, I wonder if I can do this on iPad. Then maybe there's some other stuff I've forgotten about, or I just never bothered to look at. And look and behold, there are actually 3D sculpting programs, like a ZBrush Lite, if you will, on the iPad. Nomad Sculpt. And of course I was looking into this because if I'm going to do Procreate to make concept art, then I need to make that concept in 3D, very likely. But then I'll run into the whole like UV unwrapping and the whole texturing and like how am I going to do that? And this is all very complicated. Let's look at a tutorial and see if we can find someone who has this workflow down with the tools that I've got, which is a Mac Mini M1 and an iPad Air 4, the 10-inch one, which is also a very capable little machine, which I love. Let's see if somebody, and yeah, someone has figured all this stuff out. There's a hell of a lot you can do with Nomad Sculpt itself. There's a couple of extra plugins you might want. And if I go down here, there's no way back up, is there? No, I haven't built a ladder yet. Staircase. And there's another program called Cozy Blanket, which will allow you to do retopology, which I never learned 10 years ago in ZBrush. But I'm kind of interested. I'm eager to try this out. Let me just put on my keyboard. And yeah, primitives. It's going to crash now, isn't it? I've figured out, watching a whole bunch of tutorials, that I can set up a nice little workflow, make the concept art in Procreate, make the pixel art in Sprite on the Mac, Procreate on the iPad. Fun learning a little bit of sculpting in Nomad. topology and making it game ready in Cozy Blanket. And then you can actually, once you're happy with a 3D sculpt and it's workable, you can actually bring the 3D sculpt into Procreate and paint in Procreate on the 3D and on the unwrapping, and just bring that texture back into Nomad to then export to Unreal Engine. So that's a bunch of programs, which is not what I thought originally. I can do everything in Unreal, or as much as possible in Unreal, but it's not bad, you know. So, and these are pretty. I mean, these. I suppose I could just go straight for Blender, but I'm just not. I don't know. Seems a little too complicated and complex to learn Blender. I might regret that, but let's go. All right, let's see if we can get back into this this one. I think it's this one. Okay. Okay. Let's fly over here for a second. Maybe I am simply very mistaken. To go to some brush editing. Some model. I don't really know what I'm doing. Ah, there we go. This is all looking good. Bit different. This is the Oh. All right, time for a little test. Pretty high-res textures. These are box brushes, brush edited. I've learned how to create these with meshes with holes in them. And then here you can see I added an invisible box so you can't walk through them, because the main thing I ran into is that the collision doesn't get generated with these as they do with regular primitives that are turned into static meshes. And there's probably a setting I'm missing. Look at this. This is a pretty awesome texture. On my PlayStation 1 era rock. This grass, quite fond of. So that's what I've been learning, like just how to create, how to play around with polygons and custom shapes in Unreal Engine 5. Then how I can texture them with that tool exactly how I want, which is precisely the thing I was looking for. And I can even, as you can see down here, create them into meshes that I can then just, you know, have my own custom shapes, just drop them in, right? I've learned how I can, if this is visible, I don't think so. I've learned how I can export from here using asset actions, and this is where, of course, the engine crashes. What else have I done? Use the collision view for the first time. It was quite tricky getting up to this part. Let me just so finding the correct menu is place actors panel and then the geometry tab and then placing the primitive in there and then figuring out that what they're doing in the tutorial very quickly is go into brush editing, and here there is all sorts of shenanigans. Awesome. And this is brush editing. And I thought this right here is what I would be doing mostly. But no, there's a whole nother way of doing this. So let me just go here. Select this one. Right. So with the scroll wheel, you can slow down how fast you move. So you can get really precise. Which I've never really played with. I mean, today's been pretty productive in all the things I've learned. Okay, so if I just go here, What if I want to take this one out? Extrude. Okay. And we are distracted. Because this is just... right? Just want to test this one to see if I can jump on it. Yes. See, it really is a setting. Like when you change it into a mesh, there's something that goes wrong with the settings that I haven't figured out. But that's okay. We'll get there. So, I have added this one right here. Let's make this all a bit bigger. Let's go selection. Okay. Let's see. I think one thing I haven't done yet is the foliage editor, but I think, if I remember correctly, I think you have to do it on a landscape thing. Okay. This one has to go. Okay. Okay. funny, those have collision, but these don't. still has collision.